The last arc of My Hero Academia had absolutely no narrative weight. The greatest villain in history failed to kill any teenagers in the war, and the conclusion of this arc, which was supposed to bring about real change in society, serves absolutely no purpose. And here you are complaining just because Midoriya ends up without powers. Hey guys, how are you? I hope you're all well. I'm the Monio, the interdimensional demon who talks the most about My Hero Academia on YouTube, and you're on my channel. A lot of people are complaining about Midoriya ending up without powers, but that's just a consequence of the path the story decided to follow. As I said before, the last arc should have brought real change to that society, but it served no purpose, because the heroes continue to be ranked by ranking in popularity, and people without quirks or with bad powers continue to be discriminated against in society, and war itself leaves no real consequences. People are getting too attached to the fact that the only person who really suffers in the end is Midoriya, who ends the manga without the power he spent years training to master, and without a girlfriend, becoming a simple teacher. But guys, a serious question, wasn't this already obvious to you? For me, it was quite predictable that Midoriya would lose his powers, since the anime had already made it clear that Midoriya is the last user of One for All, so in the worst case scenario, One for All would cease to exist if Midoriya died. But no one dies in this story, so what I was imagining is that in the final battle, when All for One was destroyed, One for All would also cease to exist, since they are somehow interconnected. Well, in the end that's not exactly what happened, but in practice, both powers ceased to exist, and this culminated in Midoriya being left without powers. Many people were imagining the ending in which Midoriya would become the new All Might of that world, and that didn't happen. But in the end a technological suit is built for Deku, which gives him powers equivalent to All Might's, and so he can return to his superhero activities. But this creates a big problem, because if this technology is mass-produced, everyone can be All Might. Maybe there will be an army of All Mights in the future, and I believe that eventually this could happen, but for now it is still an extremely expensive technology and not very accessible in general. But this does create a long-term problem in the lore of this world, in which the heroes will eventually be surpassed by technology. But honestly I believe that the author's intention was not to think about these things. The idea was more to create some plot device that could make Midoriya return to being a superhero, and thus please the character's fans. But this didn't work out very well apparently. But for me, the fact that Midoriya lost his powers isn't the worst thing about the ending, because before we get to that part, so many other things happen that people should be complaining more about. Like the fact that Midoriya became the greatest superhero in the world for 2 days and then lost his powers right after. Most of the final villains were defeated by teenagers, most of whom didn't even get hurt in the fight. The fact that Midoriya developed several very specific quirks, and then, none of them were really important. The fact that the final arc was very rushed with a lot of things happening, completely wasted characters. Shigaraki, who became a well-developed villain, but was later abandoned to focus on All for One. Characters like All Might, who almost died several times in the manga but stayed alive, Bakugo, who literally died and was resurrected, and even Midoriya, who lost his arms a chapter later, got them back. It was a rushed and weightless war, and that made me reflect on some things in My Hero Academia. I believe this is largely due to the fact that the author doesn't dare too much and always plays it safe. If you compare My Hero Academia with other works like Jujutsu Kaisen, where things really have consequences, you'll understand better what I'm talking about. I'm not saying that the author should kill off most of the relevant characters, like what happens in Jujutsu, but giving a little more weight to the events, with real and irreversible consequences, is a very important aspect to make the viewer care about what's happening, and make everything more unpredictable and exciting, because if you don't know if the character is actually going to die or not, this increases the feeling of danger and makes you more engaged in that story. But here we are, in an ending that I didn't find horrible as many are saying, but it left something to be desired in many aspects in my opinion. But what about you? What did you think of the ending? Do you agree with me? Leave it in the comments, and if you liked the video, subscribe to follow the next content. Until next time my people, demonic hugs.